Hey guys, Pat here from Brain Country. God is good all the time. So our son, he bought us a ping pong table for the game room. So I went to put it together, and there's these little stoppers that are inside of the legs that take these caster wheels. Well, I tried to install a caster wheel and it broke this little bushing, as you can see. So I either need to buy one from the manufacturer or go make one. So this will give me an opportunity to manufacture another little part on the newly acquired metal lathe. So here I threw together a quick little drawing of the part that I need to rebuild. I took dimensions off of the caster wheel shaft. I took dimensions on the part that goes inside the leg. And then I took dimensions on the part that rests on the outside of the leg. Then I took a distance here. And then I took an inside distance on the inside where the caster wheel, this metal part, goes into the bushing. So I got all the dimensions that I thought were pertinent to the project. See if I can manufacture this on my South Bend 9-inch metal lathe. Okay, I have my square stock in the 4-jaw chuck. It's fairly centered, and again I had these reference lines here that I basically eyeballed to. That's enough to get me close. Now the next thing I want to do is go on to over where the tailstock is and install a chuck back here. I'm going to drill a pilot hole in the end. And I'll change out my tooling here for a more round cutter. Okay, and I got my caliper set to the widest dimension here, and that's going to be the lip that goes into the seat, into the leg of the ping pong table. So I have that set first. The other thing is I have to figure out it's going to be roughly 1 inch in, so I've got plenty of room there. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm making this outer piece here. I use these calipers here to get me close, and when I get really close, then I can use the digital calipers to fine-tune where I want to be, take final readings. Now if that was metal shavings, I wouldn't be grabbing those off by hand. It's not hurting anything to remove those by hand, because they won't grab you or cut you or nothing. So I'm not too worried about shutting off the machine every time I make a pass and clean that up. Okay, that's close enough. I can have a little bit more ridge out there. Again, this is going to be the pad that keeps the bushing from recessing into the bottom of the leg. So we're good on that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make these little ribs here, or something small enough to where it recesses into the tube. I don't even think I have to make the ribs. I think I can just make that solid. And they made these ribs so that it wouldn't come out very easy, but I don't, I could use a little adhesive, or I could just use it, make it fit tight to where it won't fall out. The other thing, probably the reason why they made ribs, is so this would have a little horizontal flex this way, so when you went to push the Castor post into the hole here that I got to make, then it wouldn't, it would have a little bit of flexibility to push out. I'm just kind of engineering on the fly here. I may make those reliefs, I may not. I'm getting the diameter of the ribs right now. I'm going to cut those in, cut that diameter in. So that's going to be 0.9235, so I'll set my calipers loosen the lock up and go to 0.9235, 0.9235, and start another pass up to a certain point here. This measurement isn't critical because I can go up into the leg as far as I want to go. So I'll get it somewhere in there where I have a nice clean area to work. Okay, that fits. See, now I want to change my cutter out so I can have a nice square edge on here. Okay, now here I got a bit I just worked up a little bit, kind of cleaned it up. It was pretty dull, and this is the best I can come up with for a tool to get in there and make these cuts here. It doesn't have to be exact. Again, all these little ribs are for is to give flexibility to the bushing as it's going into the leg. So I have to make some adjustments here. I gotta find my wrench and get the right angle, tighten that up. We want to get our cutter as close to the tool rest or adapter as we can. And also, just in case you guys didn't know, when you're cutting, you want to get your cutter just above center. I think what they recommend is like 0.5 degree or 5 degrees just above center, or having this angled at 5 degrees and your cutter just above center. I think that's what I remember. Now the first cut is going to be deep underneath the lip here. Okay, that's the ribs cut. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to have enough flexibility to fit nice and snug into the leg. So now I want to establish what kind of cutter I might be able to use to cut this off. And I think the cutter that I have in there is the best one that I have available to me. So I'm going to change the angle and see how that does. Okay, I think that's going to suffice. I don't have a cutoff tool, so I'm going to have to make do with what I have here. Now the next thing I want to do is establish the hole that I need to put on here, and also I need to back this off, back the tailstock off. Remove the live center I have in here. Put a chuck in here so I can drill my hole. Need to establish what size bit that I need for that hole. So now what I have to do is determine how big a hole I need on that. Well, that's probably pretty easy. Just go over to my drill index and see which drill slides into that hole comfortably. Okay, this is a 9/32 bit that slides into the hole. Okay, I want to make sure that I got the hole deep enough, so what I'm going to do is I'll set the calipers to 0 and check my depth. That's what this little bar does. Okay, so I have 1.5 inches. I can lock that in place at 1.5, and I'm plenty deep. So now I can cut that off. I'll clean up the edge here a little bit, and I know that I'm going way overboard in all this, but I'm also wanting to practice with the lathe here a little bit. Again, I haven't done a whole lot with metal lathes, so they're similar to wood lathes in the fact that they turn things round. This lathe is for machining metal, and you can turn plastics and other materials on here as well. And of course I want that to go to the right depth. I don't want this too wide or too narrow. If it's too wide, then the label or the table technically won't be sitting level. So I want to determine how wide this needs to be before I cut it off. So I unlock my calipers. I can run this in. Zero that. It's always a good idea just to zero out your calipers just for habit's sake. Lock it in place. Now I can make sure that that rim, which is absolutely fine right there, it's just right. Now I just need to follow the cutter in nice and straight to cut that off. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off, and it's going to fall off on the carriage. Take a little piece of sandpaper or file just to clean it up a little. Another habit to get into. Okay, now I gotta go find it. No, this isn't UHMW, that's for sure. Well, you know, that went on there a little bit tight. We'll see if that goes onto the leg now. Okay, that seemed to work. Some of you might be thinking, well, that's kind of silly to spend all that time on that little bushing like that, but you know, what if this piece of equipment was out of stock or out of production? This is just one way a guy can make things on his own and not have to rely on going down to the store and buying another one. Thanks for stopping by. Take care, and God bless.